Hello, I'm Erin Jorik, and I'm going to answer some questions from yoga students. I'm hoping to make this like an ongoing monthly things. You email me or send me messages via social media, and I'm going to answer yoga questions each month. So this is my first attempt at it. Thank you to all of you that sent in questions. I'm excited to answer these this month. First question, and it didn't actually come through this month, but it's come through my email inbox many times. Book recommendations. There's a lot of yoga books that I really like, and there's a lot that I haven't read, but these are some of my favorites. My number one recommendation to students is called The Heart of Yoga. It's written by TKV Deskachar. His father studied directly with Krishnamacharya. There's just so much in it. There's stuff on asana and ways to develop your own home practice with asana, but there's information on pranayama. There's a big section on the Yoga Sutras. It's a really great, well-rounded book. So kind of depending on what you're looking for, you can find a lot of stuff in there. I also love like just about anything written by Richard Rosen. Yoga FAQ, original yoga. He's got a great book on pranayama. I just really like his writing style. It's really accessible. Yoga FAQ specifically, it just goes through like, there's so much information on all aspects of yoga, history, philosophy, asana. So I recommend pretty much anything he's written. It's all great. Next question is a question that came in from Mike with Karuna Community, Minnesota. You should check them out if you haven't already. But Mike asked me how yoga helps me off of my yoga mat. Yoga's helped me in so many different ways. Like so many people, especially Westerners, I started a yoga practice based on like the physical aspects, like to get more flexible, to get stronger, all those great things. But then with time, it was like, wow, like mentally, this is really doing great things for me. As when I was in college, I was doing a lot with depression, and yoga has helped me a lot with managing my depression. As I've gotten older, it's transitioned into anxiety, and so it gives me the tools to kind of recognize things before they get a little out of control, and then I'm able to kind of sit and breathe and meditate on it. I'm not perfect. I'm still dealing with a lot of those things, as I probably always will. But yoga has really allowed me to slow down and be less reactive. And for me, I like to teach a practice that's all about like deep awareness, deep understanding of the self, and in a physical context, because primarily what I teach is asana. But I feel like through the asana practice and just building deep awareness, I'm just more in tune with myself. Like when I know it's time to back off, I'm usually a little better about backing off, usually. And just like simple things like I'm more aware of like if I have a cold coming on, which sounds so ridiculous, but like I feel like I'm more in tune with like my emotional state, my mental state, and then from that I'm able to be less reactive, and then I make better decisions just overall because of my yoga practice. Next question is a posture question, which I'm really excited about. So Stacy asked me about chin stand. And I maybe should have asked for a little bit of clarity on what Stacy was referring to when it came to chin stand. I'm going to talk about chin stand as I know it. In the last few years, there's been this, I don't want to say trend because it's a thing. I've been noticing in classes students transitioning into this posture that kind of looks like chin stand from chaturanga. So rather than going, like lowering halfway down into chaturanga into upward facing dog, chaturanga turns into this like inverted shape. And I've heard people refer to this as chin stand, and if that's what you're referring to as chin stand, cool. I don't teach chin stand in public classes for a few reasons. I don't teach postures that could potentially jeopardize the cervical spine in a group setting. I don't teach headstand. I don't teach shoulder stand. I don't teach chin stand. If you are looking to do chin stand, and if you really like chin stand, if you like the transition of chaturanga into this like chin stand like shape, excellent, please do it. I don't want to stop you from doing it. Some things to consider. My main concern with chin stand is the amount of pressure that it can put on the neck, the cervical spine, and just the way that people are getting into it. There's a lot of momentum that's happening if you're trying to get into it from chaturanga. So this big lift and flail of the legs, I would just be a little cautious with it. I have seen in my own classes students do mega face plants, and it's like as a teacher, you kind of step back and you're like, oh gosh, I hope that person's okay because it happens. So again, if you like that transition, excellent. But what I want to talk about is chin stand, Gandha Virandasana. If you are working towards that posture, I can talk more about that posture. Again, it's not really something I would teach in a class, but what I want to show, because I'm not going to do it in my body because I'm recording this really early and I'm not going to do this early. My body's not ready for it. Gandha Virandasana is a huge back bend. It's a huge back bend and it requires a lot of preparation. So I'm going to show you the lovely BKS Iyengar in Light on Yoga doing the shape. So if you can see this, what we're looking for is that. So that's chin stand. Yes, there's weight on the chin, but there's also, and not so much in this, I would say like a little bit more like this one, there's weight more in the sternum. So the sternum is definitely more of like a stable, in my opinion, and based on what I know of anatomy, putting weight more on the sternum, less on the chin could be like a more efficient way or more sustainable way of approaching the shape if that's something you're working on. So if this is a shape, if these are all shapes that you hope to integrate into your practice, it's a lot of back bending. It's a lot of back bending. So you really have to do, I truly think it's going to take a long time to prep the body to move into this shape, unless you already have a highly mobile spine. Plus, I will say, and Stacey, I hate to break this to you, men typically are going to have a little more success with a shape like this due to, I shouldn't be stereotyping, but due to center of gravity, men's center of gravity is typically higher in the chest, and so they don't have much like weight to get up, and there's like less like leveraging of the legs. Women, our center of gravity is closer to the pelvis. We tend to have heavier legs and pelvis because for biological reasons, and so it can be a lot more challenging to get the legs up. And that's what Stacey was asking about, was she was having a hard time getting her legs up. So first, if you really want to work the shape, I recommend working it as a back bend. Think of it less of a transition, more of a shape all on its own, and it requires a lot of preparation. So work wheel pose, work big versions of cobra pose, a huge back bend. It's a big, big back bend. That's all I can say. There is a way of doing the shape. The few times that I've shown this posture, I have put myself into handstand, my chest and my face facing like flat against the wall in the handstand, and then I actually slide my body down the wall until my sternum and my chin is on the floor. So I'm actually using the wall to support my legs up. So that is one way of working the shape. Again, my body's got to be like really prepped for it, for huge back bends, to actually feel like I can do the shape safely. So that's my soapbox on chin stand. I also want to point out, and you can take this for whatever you want, those of you that are familiar with Light on Yoga, written by BKS Iyengar, he's got all these postures, and he scales the postures from 1 to 60 on level of difficulty. 1 would be like Tadasana, like neutral standing shape. Gandha Virandasana, chin stand, is a 56 out of 60 in regards to difficulty. So take it for what you want, because there's also I feel like Hanumanasana splits is like an 8 or something, so take it for what you will, but just things to consider if you are working the shape. Again, if you like the shape, if you like the transition of chaturanga to this form of chin stand, cool, keep working it. I would just say if you're really working toward Gandha Barandasana, full chin stand, sternum stand, you got to prep a lot of back bends. Um, okay, I'm done talking about chin stand. And then the final question that came through this month, Megan asked about this idea of turning the body around in final Shavasana. Some teachers cue this, some teachers don't. I don't because kind of like my teaching and what I've been taught, that's not a part of the practice, but I don't want to disrespect that. So what my knowledge is of the idea of turning around is you'll see it a lot in like Bikram yoga or like the 26 and 2 series. With every Shavasana, you turn around, your head is toward the front edge of the mat, your feet are toward the back. And that could stem from, so like Bikram studied with Vishnu Ghosh. I don't know a whole lot about that lineage. I know a little bit more of the lineage of people that studied from Krishnamacharya. So you got Krishnamacharya, B.K. Iyengar, Pattabhi Jois, and I have a little more influence from that side. But what I've been taught is that this idea of turning the body around, it turns the feet toward the back of the room. There's this idea that showing the soles of your feet to someone is seen as disrespectful. So if you have a guide or a teacher in the front, you don't want to turn the soles of your feet to the guide. But there's also this idea that, say you're practicing with a mirror, you turn your body around, the soles of your feet as the student are not being shown to your own reflection, because truly deep down, you are your greatest teacher. So it's just showing this, it's a sign of respect, turning around and not showing the soles of your feet to the teacher, whether it be like, another person that's a guide or towards yourself, your true teacher. Yeah, Megan, I hope that answered your question. That's all I got for this month. A lot of you sent me more questions, which I'm so excited to talk about, because obviously we're over 10 minutes right now and I could just talk about this stuff forever. So each month I'll be asking for questions. I'll be putting together these videos. I'll keep them as short as possible. But yeah, thank you. Those of you that I didn't get to for April, I hope to get to them in May. And we'll just keep building more questions and I'll keep answering. Thanks, and thank you for checking this out.